Let's get corrupted. What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Joe with Meteoric Serpents coming back at you for another episode of the Colubrid Corruption Podcast. Guys, welcome to 2025. Happy New Year. Hope everyone had a great holiday season. I just hope you guys all enjoyed. I took a couple weeks off in December. Obviously, we're not doing that. We wanted to kick things off right, have a real nice start to 2025. And as you guys probably saw by the thumbnail, wanted to start off with a bang and bring our homie Alvaro back from Clover's Reptiles. He was episode number 3. Yeah, episode number 3 on the podcast originally. So it's been a while since he's been here. That means it's been a little over a year. I really want to know what's going on in his collection. I've always said I absolutely respect what Alvaro's built over the last couple years. So all of that's super cool. I just want to hear things from his perspective, see how things are going and all that. But let's get through this intro stuff first. I hope you guys like the new thumbnail style. It's 2025. I thought the new year called for a little bit of change. Changed the font here on the graphics as well. Hope you guys like that. Try to keep things up and fresh and updated and all that good stuff. Guys, and as usual, I am looking like a floating head because the background's black, my shirt's black, but it's the Meteoric Serpents t-shirt, and you could get that by hitting me up. You could also get the Let's Get Corrupted t-shirts. I have those on hand. Let me know. Guys, if you're watching this, if you've been enjoying the podcast, thank you so much. Thank you to all the subscribers. I hope you guys listened to my little end of the year solo episode. You guys know how much I appreciate all the viewers. If you're here for the first time or you're here again, make sure you hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. Make sure you hit that like button today. Let's say what's up to everyone. Good to see you all here. And you could also listen to this podcast on all the major audio platforms. If you're listening on YouTube and you want to show me support, get the algorithm out to other people, go leave a 5-star review on those like Apple, Spotify, places like that, YouTube Music. Leave a 5-star review if and where you can. Leave a write something too. That helps out as well. You could follow me at Meteoric Serpents pretty much on all major social media platforms. You can find this podcast by searching Colubrid Corruption pretty much anywhere on Google. You can find all my accounts by typing in Meteoric Serpents and all that good stuff. Guys, make sure you support USARK Florida. Those are the organizations that fight for our rights to keep our reptiles. Whether it's a business for you, whether this is a hobby, whether you have one snake or whether you have 100 snakes, they're fighting for our rights to keep our reptiles. Because you never know what's going on in your current location, and even things that aren't going on in your location, it could affect things countrywide. So let's make sure we are supporting those organizations. I sure do. I support both of them. And the lowest membership tiers are quite cheap. So join the fight for sure. First link in the description below goes to the Meteoric Serpents Patreon. Guys, if you're interested in joining a community of cool people who enjoy colubrids, that's a good place to be. The Meteoric Serpents Patreon. We have a cool Discord group chat. Plus, it's another way if you want to say thank you for the show. It's a way to support me. And then besides that, if you just want to do a little one-time thanks, you could always do a super chat here on YouTube. Though at that point, I'd recommend you just join the Patreon and have fun with it in a group chat with other people. And then we are also, Colubrid Corruption is brought to you guys by Show Me Reptiles, Show Me Reptiles Show, and the Show Me Marketplace. Guys, whether you go to reptile shows, doesn't matter where you are across the country, they do shows everywhere. Plus, Show Me Reptiles is the organization that throws Colubrid Fest, or, Mickey is the one who helped all the logistics get put together, and they're working on it for 2025, just like locking the dates in. I know that's been picked for the Fort Wayne place, so I'm excited for that next year. But yeah, support those who support the Colubrid hobby. Check out your nearest Show Me Reptile show, whether you're a vendor or an attendee. Also, you can check out the Show Me Marketplace which is another way for you to buy and sell your reptiles. And if you are a vendor and you want to sell on the Show Me Marketplace, you could use code corruption50 corruption-50 that is on the screen right there for you. I believe I put it in the description as well, so you could go ahead and see that if you're not watching the screen. It's the word corruption, then a dash, then 50, like 50, no spaces. So go check that out. You will get half off for 1 year as a seller on the Show Me Marketplace. Sorry if I didn't say that. But yeah, so go ahead and try that out and let me know what you think of it. Also, before we say what's up to the chat, let's see our hashtag Colubrid corruption of the week. This is an older photo. See, this is from a few months ago, but it's from former guest of the show, Phil of Wellington Exotics. Check out his. Oh boy, I'm gonna mess this up. It's the blue garter snake. I forget exactly which species it is. But yeah, dope setup. Phil always has good setups. I really like this enclosure that it's in. But yeah, look, it's just kind of chilling out on the perch. So go follow Phil on Instagram at Wellington Exotics 1. And check it out. Go listen to his episode that he did on here for the newly corrupted segment. That was fun. I want to do more of those. I need to find people who are getting newly corrupted. I want to have more guests on the show like that. I thought that was fun. See what newer keepers are excited about. All right, but before we bring our guest out, let's say what's up to the chat real quick. We got Eric's More Factory, my dog. What's going on? Hope you're doing well. We got Emilio, the V Unit Mob Boss. What's going on? We got Krista from Neurophi Exotics. Thanks for being here, Krista. Adam from Ivory Colubrid Co., one of the Patreon members. Yes, Texas Rats are supreme. Adam already knows. I hope you're enjoying yours, your pair from me. We got Mike from Solid Serpents in the chat. Is anyone going to Pomona? I know Emilio is. I'm not sure about anyone else, but yeah. And let's see. We have Snugster in the chat. What's going on? Thanks for being here. All right, but without further ado, guys, let's bring out our guests. It's my friend, my good friend from real life. It's not our first time talking, but it's my buddy Alvaro from Clover's Reptiles. What's up, man? How are you?
What's up, man? It's good to be friends in IRL.
No, it's it's weird, and I always say that because a lot of people I talk to on the podcast, it's like my first conversation with them. It's like I hit them up out of nowhere after never talking to them before. But I know you in real life. Like
for sure,
we're friends. So
yeah.
But yeah, no, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it. Good way to start 2025 off with you coming back on the show.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's a good start to the week. I mean, the week, and the year. Like you, I took a break from YouTube and social media. I just got back Friday from a 2-week vacation up north. So, good thing to jump back into things with you.
Yeah, I'm sure that was fun. Little trip back home. I know you're from the Northeast like I am. So
yeah. Sure.
And at least it's winter time, so you get to kind of do that with your animals with cremation and stuff.
Yeah, man. I mentioned that in one of our chats. Like, it's a blessing to have colubrids and especially hognose, because majority of the collection is in brumation still. I still have 2 more weeks left, so it gives us a good break and be able to go away and not have to worry about feeding, watering, maintaining so many animals. It gives it a little bit easier time to get away. I don't know if I could get away for 2 weeks with having the full collection up and going, but yeah.
Gotcha.
Did we lose?
Okay. No, I'm here.
Okay,
sorry.
Gotcha.
I had to fix my little backdrop here.
I gotcha.
No, that's always good. And yeah, you do brumation legit. You have the whole fridge. I've seen it in your room. So everything goes down. And now I know you've done it in the past. You put everything down, which includes even new hatchling holdbacks. The only thing you don't is really your stuff that's for sale still. Is that correct?
Yeah, man. It's wild this year. The fridge I have is it's a pretty good size fridge. It's a two-door, one of those glass two-door fridges. And last year and even earlier this year, I go, man, I have plenty of space in there to grow over the next couple years, this and that. And I did a little something different this year because I had year and a half old males that I want to use this year that were up to age but need a little extra weight. So I kept them out an extra month and fed them an extra month. And then I put them away into brumation right before I was going on vacation, along with the yearlings as well. And with the yearlings, my 2023 holdbacks, all my breeders, it's time for another fridge already. So it's wild. I usually have grates and they sit on the grates. I had to pull everything out and it's just sitting directly on the floor fridge stacked up.
And because they're hogs, I think you use like the McCormick tubs with like the red top, so they're not super big tubs either. So if you're out of space, that means there's a lot of snakes in there.
There is, man. It's crazy. It's like I don't know the exact number right now, but it's around probably 60 something in there right now.
Nice.
And and that's including some babies and stuff like that. So, but majority is big females. I think this year I did use for the males, I used a little bit bigger tub. So it took up a little more space. I just wanted to give them a little more room. Even though in their brumation, they still move around.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Yeah. Now, obviously, the brumation kind of leads us into the 2025 season, but I kind of want to go back and rewind, and I want to know how your 2024 was overall and how that was. And, obviously, it's been a little over a year since we last talked. On here at least. So I kind of want to go over what happened in the 2024 season for you, because that was officially year 2, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So let's hear it. How did it go in comparison to year 1? Because if I remember correctly, these facts, year 1 was like just over 100 babies off of 8 females, like 8 breeder females.
Yep.
So I want to know how that progressed. What was different now going into the second season?
Yeah. So it's interesting, man. I hatched about the same amount of babies, but I had 12 females breeding this year. Which it's, pretty crazy to think, add in a handful of other females still hatching the same amount of animals. So that already leads us to like 2024 wasn't a bust, but probably could have been a little bit better. I was expecting to probably do a couple more clutches, but for some reason, well, I know the reason now. Once I sat down and reviewed like my records and all that stuff, I didn't get any double clutches this year. Where the first year in 2023, the double clutches, pushed me over the top with all those extra babies. And the biggest thing last year, man, it was, 2023, I didn't have many shows because I just started breeding, so I didn't have any animals to carry over from the year prior and all that stuff. But 2024, from January, I hit the ground running, doing shows nonstop, trying to do at least one show a month, maybe 1 or 2 months, 1 or 2 months. I did 2 shows, so I was very busy. And I went to Dallas, I went to North Carolina, went to Houston, Texas, and then a whole bunch of other stuff within the state. So my time was very divided, even with the size of collection that I have, compared to some of the, other people. It's not a huge collection, but being able to have to do all that stuff, the time was divided during breeding season. And I think what the major change was, and I looked it up in my records, was I fed about maybe 1 or 2 feedings per, like between, actually more. I think like for every female, it's a handful of feedings that I didn't get in because either I was away to a show, traveling, or whatever it was. And I think that makes a big difference in
Gotcha.
the double clutching. So,
Okay.
these didn't have the extra nutrition to be able to push those extra eggs.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And yeah, those extra few meals could really be make or
Yeah, man.
break, especially when they need that calcium output to produce a whole nother clutch. Were you
Mhm.
getting double clutches and they were slugs, or they simply didn't produce at
Nope.
all?
I didn't get not one double clutch, not even
Okay.
like slugs and stuff. Yeah, so it
I,
wasn't.
I'd say that's actually probably better on your end that they didn't like
Yeah.
waste themselves on a slug out or something.
Yes. Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. So it was eye opening. I had friends that were telling us like, man, are you sure you want to travel during breeding season and stuff like that? I don't travel during breeding seasons because I want to be here and be able to dial down everything correctly. This year, I mean, next week we got another show. So technically
Right.
breeding season has to start, but I might dial it down a little bit, maybe not travel out of state, but still do in-state shows where
Okay.
instead of being away for 4 or 5 days, I'm away for 2 or 3 the max if it's really far in
Right.
North Florida. And try to get that production up and stuff like that. But, and then with the carryover from 2022, it still worked out because I had a good set of animals left over from 2022 that just added to the 100 plus babies that I hatched out this year.
Gotcha. Nice. Yeah. And then when it comes to your production this past year, what were some of the big hits? You know, what was that animal that you wanted to hit that you may have hit, or what were
Yeah.
the big results, the best results, I should say?
Yeah. So one of the biggest thing is I sacrificed some visuals this year to make triple head stuff. And the main reason I did that was because I'm gonna say they're not available out there, but they had albino in it, and I didn't want albino in that type of
Okay.
a combo. So instead of having to first of all, pay for an extra gene or even put albino tag combo, I was like, I'm just gonna make heads, and I made a triple head, sable Axanthic toffee bellies, which they're
Nice.
called acid rains, the visual, and they're pretty new. They're that combo. There's only maybe like a handful of people that have produced them and publicly shown them. There's that I know to my knowledge. There's not many. There's probably backdoor deals and stuff like that out of the public eye,
Right.
but publicly, I haven't seen anybody sell them one on Morph Market and stuff. So
Okay.
that was one of my biggest things. Was like, all right, sacrifice visuals this year from those two pairings because I could have created toxic condas and then sables, mai tais, and sable visuals with either of those parents. But I sacrificed the visuals just to make that stuff for my future breedings. So that was really good, and that's one of those things like they're brown snakes, and triple visuals sometimes are a little hard to sell, right?
Right.
But for me to build a future project, I kept I think 6 females and 2
Okay.
males out of that project. So when they're ready to go, I'll have plenty to run that project. And then
Nice.
the rest of the stuff I think I got 15 babies. And those was one of those clutches that I was actually glad I didn't get a double clutch because I don't want to have to off sell that project as random things or have to cut my price just to try to move them at the end of the year and stuff
Right.
like that. So that was a little, blessing in disguise that I didn't get double clutches out of those. I got just enough what I wanted for my project. And then, got to hook up with some people, was it a few shows ago, we were in Scales Expo.
Yep.
You were there as well. And one lady
Yeah.
stops by and she's like, I've been looking for the exact same combo for the last year and a half, and I haven't seen it yet. And I got a good sale there. I'm happy I was able to
Nice.
also, have something on my table that somebody's been searching for.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And then the next stuff that I think was really like, what gets for me is what I want to keep for myself to future breed, right?
Yeah.
So the other stuff was I put a extreme red albino into the snow project. So I got some, that one. The female only laid 4 good eggs, and then not slugged out. She retained the eggs, and by the time they laid it, they were all suffocated. So I got 4 eggs, and I got a 2.2. So I kept
Okay.
a 1.1, and I still have a female, but r- amazing, amazing. Those produced Arctic albino anacondas with extreme red lineage, purple line lineage, all 100% het for Azantic. And
Nice.
it came from the male was a super Arctic snow, purple line super Arctic snow, to a purple line extreme red super conda albino female. Possible het snow. That's what I was really hoping to hit, but with the
Okay.
4 eggs, we didn't have enough to really prove it out yet. So we'll see in the future. But I got some really cool babies, at least a 1.1 that I can keep. I still have a female available. That's one of those projects. It's like if she starts growing a little bit bigger, nobody catches, picks her up, she's gonna stay here as another
Right.
breeder. So I think that. What else? And then one thing I did was I didn't produce as much like super high end animals this year, just because the year 2022, one of my best movers were like albino anacondas, Arctic albino anacondas.
Right.
That the shows that I was going to, the local shows, and even the national shows around the country, a lot of people were buying those. So I geared myself towards that.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
just
and I know.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I knew you told me that
Mhm.
earlier this year that you were kind of going for a lot more pet stuff than necessarily higher end stuff for investors, just because, I mean, pet people love hognose, and it's
Yeah.
always good to have less expensive animals on your table, especially when you're doing
Mhm.
shows and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, man. So and it's helped me out a lot, man. I have maybe 35 animals left from last year, so they've moved pretty well.
Cool.
Out of the 100 and something that hatched out. So I think I did a good decision. We talk about the market and stuff that between our friends and our circle and stuff like that. And I think it worked out. Where the people that had the money to spend, and I tell people all the time, I'm still new in this. I'm very, very
Yeah.
fresh still in this. Where to me, sometimes if somebody's gonna spend $2 grand, $4 grand, or whatever on a hog nose currently, and it's their last purchase of the year, or they're really budgeting, yeah, they might come to me, but realistically, I think a lot of those people are spending the money with the well-established 10+ year breeders that have, a wide variety, a very large collection, and is able to produce multiple things at a
Right.
time. So I think within what was going on this year with the economy, and people not having the extra, I think, or not wanting to spend the extra cash on luxuries, because that's what I say, we have a luxury business here,
Yeah.
industry. It's not a necessity to live. I mean, for me it is, because I love animals, right? By the end of the day, like, if the animals went to the tomorrow, I could still survive with what I need, the essentials of life. So it
Right.
worked out. Now this year, I am gearing towards more higher end projects. I'm gonna have more females, so I can still allocate some females to the pet stuff. Um, and produce some higher end stuff that's gonna come down the pipeline.
Nice. Yeah, and I do want to talk about what you're expecting for 2025. But before that, because it was one of the topics I wanted to hit on, because you mentioned it, like the market and the economy and all of
Yeah.
that. What have you seen in the overall hognose market? I'd say, like, this year, especially compared to when you were getting in and you were buying a lot of animals. And I know you've still bought some animals over time here and
Mhm.
there. I know you made some purchases this year, but how has it compared? I'd say it's hard to like compare it to ball pythons, because I see a lot of ball pythons, but I feel like everything in general, it seems like a tougher sale. A lot of prices have generally gone down. So how has it looked in hognoses specifically?
Yeah. Man, hog noses. I jumped into when hog noses were flying off the shelves. I remember you know, trying to get breeder stuff on Morph Market. If you looked at it and you didn't buy it and you went down the next day, it was gone. You know, and there's two things. I think the economy is slowed down a little bit on people purchasing snakes or or animals in general. And then there is more breeders now. More people that had got in when I did are now starting to produce as well. So the demand, right? It's still there, but the supply is larger. So there is a little more competition and stuff like that. But I'm still moving Hognose. I'm still selling. I'm doing the shows. The shows have been a big help with selling, our Hognose. And then myself, you said it. We talk in our groups and we share what we, our new additions and stuff. And I'm still doubling down on the Hognose. I probably made my biggest investment. It was a done deal already, but I finished making the deal this year on one of the Hognose and stuff like that. So, I'm still in for it. I don't think the Hognose aren't going anywhere. To me, there's still the sky's the limit still with Hognose. So I don't see it slowing down particularly. I just see it's going to spread out more. That's really it.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And there's so many morphs and line bred stuff to play with. Yeah, I mean, the Hognose are just gonna keep rolling. So definitely.
Yeah, man. And and I've had friends that been breeding for 10 plus years that this was their biggest years of production. So that seen from the background, I can also see like you said, like I mentioned, the amount of availability, it has definitely gone up.
Gotcha. Now, here's my question, and this kind of segues into talking about 2025. If you're seeing that supply go up and possibly the buying start to slow a little bit, does that make you not want to breed as many animals, or are you so project oriented that you want to breed because you're breeding for yourself as well?
Yeah. Same thing again this year. Yeah, man. I'm breeding for myself. There's a handful of projects that I'm gonna produce for myself. And even with the byproduct and I say byproduct is just the stuff that I don't want to, maybe I'm not going to keep, but still works with somebody else in their either as a pet or in their breeding project. I'm not slowing down, man. I'm going to breed just as many females this year and hopefully get double clutches and all that stuff.
Nice.
And then again, right, gear up for the following year. It's just a nonstop circle. I don't think this is a thing that people need to say, hold on, let me not say that because different people on different, boats. But to me, it's not a year for me to say, wait, let me breed half my animals and wait and see. To me, I think I'll be, shooting myself in the foot if I did that.
Right.
I even though I'm not going to produce, even this year, I probably won't produce more than 300 Hognose. And if I do 300, that's a big number for me.
Yeah.
So hopefully maybe I hit around 200 and I'll be happy. A handful of, more clutches that's compared to last year. And then again, they'll carry me over for the year. Because that's one of the things that I think where this year, another reason I have to slow down some shows is I have 35 Hognose,
Okay.
Between Morph Market and then other shows coming up, to me, it won't be worth it. Like I could have gone to Pomona, right? But am I going to fly out there with 35 Hognose, the expense and all that stuff to make to possibly sell 10 and not having the high end stuff? Because the stuff that I produced that was, above $800, a couple grand did move already.
Okay.
So to me, it wasn't the best decision to go to Pomona. Maybe in the summer, maybe it'll be a different, or 2020 next year stuff that'll be different. But we'll see what happens from then.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So 35 left overall. That's pretty good. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. And big shout out to to Emilio and the V unit and stuff like that, because you know Emilio put me on to like the Repticons and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
seeing him do that stuff and seeing our circle go to Repticons, like, okay, let me start doing them as well. Because then I was thinking about, oh, Morph Market is going to take care of me. Online sales are going to take care of me.
Right.
And realistically, you need to hustle right now.
Yeah.
You got to you can't put your eggs in one basket right now.
That's for sure. Yeah. And it's great with what, with the animals you have, because you have a little bit of something for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You have a little bit of the pet stuff. You have some middle tier stuff. You have like,
Yeah.
I'll call them bougie pets, and then
Yeah.
like semi-investor, and then you have the investment animals
Mm-hmm.
too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that kind of caters to anyone who might be looking for a hognose for whatever
Yeah.
reason they might be looking.
Yeah. I mean, I tell people all the time, is most of us, I say 99% of the hobby and our industry started probably just as a pet, right? That's the
Yep.
beginning. And to me, to close off my animals to that part of the industry, again, I think is not a good move on my end, because as I'm growing, those people can grow with me as well
Yep.
and become very loyal customers. If I take care of them, produce good animals for them, as I grow, their needs are going to grow as well. If they want to become breeders one day, or or just want to have some, like you said, some bougie pets and stuff like that.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, so you talked about it already, like the reptile shows and the Hognose Market. How has that looked for you? How has that evolved over the last you've been doing shows for a little over a year now.
Mm-hmm.
How has, I guess, that evolved? Because I feel like every show I go to, I see more and more hognose breeders.
Yeah.
I would say it depends on the show, but there's more and
Yeah.
more of them. Um,
Yeah.
so how does it kind of fare for you in the midst of that competition and trying to sell animals, but also like putting your best foot forward, having the best animals on the table and stuff like that?
Yeah, man. One thing, like, from starting to now, it's one thing I do get a lot at especially the local shows, is, wow, you have a large collection of hognose. You have a large, availability of hognose that most people haven't seen. And lucky me, I'm one of the only, not the only, but I'm one of the few hognose breeders that has a variety to be able to put out there that's doing the local shows. That helps me out a lot.
Right.
Um, yeah, there is competition out there. There's other vendors and stuff like that. But to me, I go mindset of, all right, I'm gonna go sell my hog nose. I know what I have. Try to give the people as much as information I can about a hog nose. Give them good customer service. Um, one thing that I noticed towards the end of the year, um, and I've seen in the ball python, w- vendors and stuff like that. But I did see people doing like fire sales on hognose. And to me, I think about it, and I do lose sales to those people and stuff like that. But it's part of the business, right? Business is business. People are gonna um, do those sales and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's not sustainable. Um, you know,
Yeah.
it's the cost of of tables, the cost of travel there, feeding your animals, purchasing animals. If the only way you can do business is by sale, like running some crazy buy one get one 30% off, 50% off sales, there's no longevity there.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I do make deals at shows and stuff like that. I do make deals because I'm also there to sell animals. And if I see somebody's interested and maybe they're $50 off the price that's on the tag, I make a deal and make it work. And it's been something that, starting at the beginning of the year and 2022, wasn't too didn't happen much. But as the year went on this year, it seems like, people were struggling and stuff like that. Myself, there was probably like 1 or 2 months that I didn't have one sale. Either I didn't have a show, or there was no Morph Market sale, so I didn't have a sale. Um,
Right.
but you can't panic. is part of it. And if somebody, I think, needs to run sales or some crazy, like, and that's not wrong with sales, right? But like some crazy, like, buy one get one 50% off the whole table and stuff like that. I think they need to reevaluate on how they're running their animal collection, or if they have a business, their business. Again, there's no longevity in that. So, and then another thing too I do, man, it's and you've seen it, I use Husbandry Pro. And a lot of people like the record keeping. A lot of people like the information that I can provide them. So sometimes that also helps a lot. It's a little more work on my end, but
Yeah.
it's worth it at the end of the day to make the customer have a better experience and them get all the information that because usually you ask, what was the hatch date? When was the last time I ate? What are the parents' genetics and stuff like that? And with Husbandry Pro, I'm able to quickly send them the info on that.
Yeah. Man, I want to get into the Husbandry Pro so
Mhm.
bad. And I did it. I was like on a good streak because I have it and I pay for
Yeah.
it. And I got on a good streak for like a solid, I don't know, 3 weeks to a month where like I was
Mhm.
marking water changes, I was marking feedings, I was doing the whole nine, and I had every animal inputted in there. I had my rack set up, so I had it organized. I knew where everything was. But man, I work full time. I was going to school still. I do a lot. I'm a busy person. It's
Mhm.
so hard to do that organized record keeping. So I give props to the guys who do it. And I know you do this like full time
Mhm.
now. So, but man, it's so difficult. And I want to like it because I like the features. I like what it
Yeah.
does. I like being able to do what you said, provide it to customers and stuff. But I find it so hard to be in that routine because if I'm cleaning and stuff and I'm feeding, like I just do it quickly, boom, 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 boom. I go around and that's
Mhm.
it. Like I take my 20 to 30 minutes, I take care of it, and then I go do whatever else I got to do. So no, I do give you props for staying on top of that, and I know you're very organized and detail oriented, and
Yeah.
you have all your shit down when it comes to that.
Yeah, man. It is. It takes a good amount of time to get into the groove of things. There's definitely days that I'll feed, and maybe next morning I'll log it in. I'll backdate it to the day before.
Yeah.
Just because in the middle of feeding,
Yep.
busy schedule and stuff like that, and I'll write. It is crazy because it's almost counterproductive, right? But like, I'll write myself a sticky note or something like that, and then like log in feeding, right? Um, that's supposed to take that away, but in the middle of your schedule to come back into the system, and realistically it's probably like 3 or 2 buttons, 5 minutes, but five
Yeah.
minutes in the busy schedule sometimes adds up, right? um
Yeah.
Another thing too that I added this year was like binder clips, small binder clips, where
Okay.
I'll feed and stuff like that, and non-feeders or like drop feeders I'll mark with the binder clips. So later
Gotcha.
on, either in the night when I have extra time, I'll sit down and I'll log non-feeders or whatever it is. um so it's always a evolving like way to manage it and try to remember everything.
Now here's a question for you. Were you going crazy and putting like prey size and all that stuff? Were you doing that whole nine, or were you just marking feed on everything and like
um
the bulk feed options?
So yeah, I do the bulk feed auction. But then I did enter all like my feeders. Um,
Okay.
and then when I, when I change the bulk, I'll bulk edit the size of feeder that they take. So when I go and
Okay.
feed,
Okay.
it sets to default. Just
Gotcha.
feed the rack, unclick what didn't feed, and those, there's it says mark like unclicked or unselected ones mark as refused feeding. So it does the feature already for. So that way I don't have to put in size, but I already have the feeder set in. And
Got it.
the bulk editing is really good once you figure it out.
Yeah. No, yeah, like I said, I had it down for a bit and then
Yeah.
I kind of lost my track on it. I was doing it more for myself than for anyone else at that point, just to see if I,
Yeah.
liked it. Um,
Yeah, man. And you know what? And I even do it for my breeders. So for
yeah,
myself, and that what we were talking about earlier about why I didn't get double clutches. I reviewed my feedings I sat down and then went through the feedings from 2023 and this in 2024. And I saw, oh man, I missed a good amount of feedings.
Okay.
So data, I was able to at least, figure out, at least I think I figured out why. So this year, again, this year I'm going to make sure I add those extra feedings that I missed. And if I get good amount of production of double clutches, then I figured out that it was the feedings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I think I'll find my way back to it because I do like it. I like the system. It's the time thing, and I have to like put my head down and commit to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's cool. Let's see. One thing I wanted to ask you, what's big and new in the hognose world? Like what's going on? Because I guess I wouldn't say I keep tabs per se, besides seeing you and a couple other people, just posting your stuff. But I don't know, what's big and new that's going on in the entirety of hognoses?
Yeah, man. So genetics is always the big, people want to know what's going on with genetics. In the hognose world, so there hasn't been any new recessives or like incomplete dominant or dominant traits put out yet in the last maybe last 5 years or so.
Okay.
There is people working, projects here and there that are trying to prove things out that they still have under wraps, but they mention, hey, I'm working on something. So maybe this year or the following year we'll see something pop up. We had that. I think now with more people breeding hognose, we're gonna see a lot more different combos, of different things. Because even with the hognose world, people fall into that trend of, damn, I really like that one combo. Let me start making it, right?
Yeah.
And I think we do need that so we can produce. Because if you like it, other people probably like it. But we also need people to start thinking past that.
Further.
Yeah, further than that, like triple visual stuff. Like triple visual recessive hognose just really started popping out last year, and we're probably going to see a lot more this year. So that's another big thing, and maybe even some quad stuff this year with a couple of, with the incomplete dominance thrown on top of it. So that's pretty cool to see that we're getting to those points where some breeders are regularly producing triple and quad visual animals. And then there's always some genetic stuff that pops out here and there. It's like, oh, I have this weird thing going on, but I still gonna need to prove it out. One of the biggest things that I'm excited for, and I had it on my podcast, Rare Genetics, and they're probably gonna have, by the end of the year, they said they'll have 5 different recessive traits, or 5 traits to be able to test for hognose.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because I know that especially was being talked about leading up to Colubrid Fest. It was like, bring your sheds for hognoses and corn snakes for RGI, because Dr. Ben was there with Kayla. I got to meet them and have a good conversation with them, so that was cool. But yeah, so I'm sure that's definitely exciting for you guys that they're jumping into that world. I know it was being talked about for a bit beforehand, but then now we're seeing it kind of come to fruition.
Yeah, man. They still need sheds, but yeah, as long as they have the sheds, they can map them this year, he says.
So is that the deal? They're just openly asking for people to mail in hognose sheds? All right, so there you go. Anyone who's listening to this that has hognose, do your part.
Yeah, do your part. Yeah, and they just posted on their Instagram, over the weekend, the last couple of days, that they need sheds with the address and everything on their Instagram post. So just send the sheds in with as much information as you can about that animal, especially if hognose. One of the biggest things and we talked about it when I had him onto my podcast, and was shed testing for the Arctic gene, because the super, that's an incomplete dominant. So the super form,
Yep.
it's really easy to tell. But sometimes the single gene one, the
Yeah.
Arctic, sometimes it's very difficult to tell.
It's
Even just on
subtle,
a,
right?
yeah, it's sometimes very, very subtle. And that will help out so much in trying to, properly identify the Arctic stuff. Because we've sometimes we've joked about like, I'm only going to breed super Arctic stuff. So I know that
Yeah.
everything's Arctic, right?
Yeah.
Um, but realistically, that's not gonna, you can't do that. You're not gonna have a full collection of super Arctic stuff. Um, so that's gonna be, I think that should be like number one, what call it, shed testing that should come out. So if you guys have Arctic, super Arctic animals and sheds, send them into RGI because you're gonna help it. And if you breed, you know what I'm talking about, the pain to try to identify some very subtle Arctics. And
Yeah.
then there's some that are really easy to identify. But if we can make sure that we get the right genetics on these animals, it'll help all of us. And I think there's both, it's a double-edged sword, right? Sometimes, it's going to push projects a lot faster if we have those
Yep.
genetic testing. But then as well, I'm one of those people that's like, I want to provide as much information I can to myself and my customers. So to me, it's going to be very helpful.
Yeah. Definitely. Have you seen people who are producing Arctics kind of err on the side of caution when it comes to labeling their animals?
Oh yeah, yeah, I
Like
do it.
as pos or just not even saying it at all.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes, man, it's so subtle that like I couldn't even feel comfortable saying possible Arctic.
Okay.
I always put the pairing. So if somebody gets lucky and hits a super Arctic from that, from the animal they get, then great on them.
Yeah.
But sometimes having that Arctic in an animal could be the deal breaker.
Gotcha.
Not or having it or not having it. And if maybe I have one or two animals that somebody's looking for, like Arctic lavenders are a big one, and Arctic and lavenders sometimes it's really easy to tell, but majority of the times it's very difficult. So if I can test all my lavenders are possibly Arctic, it'll be a great help on that end.
Gotcha.
And even to test some breeders that I have and stuff like that's like,
Right.
man, I got it sold as Arctic, and now I've had two breedings, and it's like I haven't produced any super Arctics. Do I just have bad luck on it, or or it's just or it's not Arctic? So even then, it'll be easier just to send in the shed for that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. All right. Very cool. Yeah, that was one thing I definitely wanted to talk about. And just to go along with that for people listening, I think they're looking for corn snakes as well. So
Yeah.
Corn snakes and hognoses, if you have sheds, send them in. If you want to know genetic testing, I know it's been a big help with ball pythons. I know there's been some controversies here and there, some tests that aren't as great, and some mess ups that have occurred.
Yeah.
But I did some shed testing this year with ball pythons. I hit some really good odds. Had some animals not prove the hets that I was testing, so it goes both ways. But yeah, shed testing is a really super cool technology. I know I'm not going to see it in some of the species I keep, probably, but for the common species, I think it's fantastic, and it's going to help projects push, even better. So it's cool. But yeah, so now let's talk about 2025. So where are you at with your collection when it comes to breeders this year? So you said you went up to 12 breeders last year, breeder females. Where are you at for year 3?
So year 3 is not a big difference. I think I have 13 females this year.
Okay.
I have one female that I had to take off breeding, had really bad egg binding, had a infection in the ugly ducks and stuff like that, and just had a really rough time bouncing back. So Definitely not gonna get bred this year. Gonna give her a full year of recovery and stuff like that. So I have about 13 females this year, and then with the biggest thing is the males that I have this year. I have a lot of double visual, males that are coming online that are going to be a big booster for the projects that I've been working on to be able to produce
Nice.
more visuals and also do some, other head stuff as well. So that's the biggest thing. It's the males that are coming online this year, and then it's crazy because sometimes I feel like we second like rate males for
Yeah.
breeding,
I was just gonna
but
say that to you. Now you have these powerful males, and they're gonna really
yeah,
power your season along.
yeah, man. So that's the biggest thing, and now being able to see that, like, generally I keep most of my holdbacks are females, just because I want to be able to grow them back up and
Yep.
stuff like that. But this year I kept a handful of extra males just because I go, I'll keep them, and then if I for some reason I really don't need them, I'll sell them off, and somebody will use them in the project. And the
Also,
males,
nothing wrong with having backup males.
yeah, yep, yeah. That's
Yeah.
I think that's another thing that happened last year too. I tried to stretch out two males, and they're older males, so they're only think good for one female. So this year I'm definitely not making that mistake. I decided to keep some stuff. And then I had some weird, backtrack to 2024. I had a pairing that had albino in it that I didn't think that the male or female had in it, and it threw some stuff in there. There's one visual male that I really can't identify what it all has because it's thrown albino in it. Um, so I decided to keep the whole clutch off of them,
Okay.
off of that, and I'll keep the whole clutch. Hopefully, there's the testing, and I'll test all of them and see if anything proves out to be like triple visual, or or
Okay.
at least double visual and double head for other stuff. So that's pretty cool to see. And then just finally seeing the babies that I hatched growing up this year to be able to breed the following year. So that's another very
Yeah.
like exciting part of this year. It's seeing, I have males that I'm using this year that I bred and I hatched out. So that's pretty cool to see as well. But finally get the females up to size and age.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really good accomplishment this year for the next following year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how thin will you spread your males? Are most of your pairings like 1-to-1? Or are you putting one male to multiple females? What's your kind of take? I'm assuming it depends on the male.
Yeah, it depends on the male. But in this year, like I said, I have double visual males. I have backup males that are either like single visual, het or double het males. This year I'm going to 1-on-1,
Okay.
and maybe throwing in a backup male that has the same either single visual, the het, or double het as a backup. But this year's no male's gonna spread thin. He's gonna have all the time with one female. The only male that is going to get used with more than one female is my visual Swiss chocolate male.
Okay.
Because that's a project that's very cutting edge. The Swiss chocolate is one of the newest newest morph that came out, recessive morph that came out. So I want to start. I'm not going to get any visuals because the female is not ready. She'll be ready the following year, but I'll put him to visual females to get some heads and build up those projects.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see. I was gonna pull up your Instagram. Let's do that. Look a little bit of what happened this past year.
Yeah, my Instagram. There's a lot of shows. That's when I was watching. There's a lot of show posts.
I see that.
So that's the male. Is this the male? So this is the clutch that I kept the whole clutch. I decided to keep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was one of those things that just looked weird. It was almost like I think maybe the female might even be Arctic as well. So this year, actually, I'm gonna put an Arctic male to her and see if I get super Arctics. But yeah,
So permafrost is a triple het, so it's actually a quad het.
correct.
It
Yep.
was quad het to quad,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, man. So it's one of those like crazy crapshoots that happened, and so I decided, like I said, one of those projects that no sense in putting them out there. And for me, at least, I could use every single animal out of this clutch, you know.
Right.
And it ended up being a smarter clutch, so that's another reason I decided to keep everything that I had.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So
This one's a really
that's
nice one.
yeah. So that's the extreme red stuff that I was talking about. So that's
Okay.
a purple line, extreme red, Arctic albino anaconda, het Azantic. And if I'm not wrong, I think that's the male that I decided to keep.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that one's super, super nice.
yeah. And if people that are watching and know Hognose, without the extra line bred traits, usually Arctic albinos start yellowing out. So having Arctic and having an albino within with that coloration is a plus. So yeah, man, a lot
Was
of
this
show
your
posts. So
Daytona booth? No.
no,
This
that
was
was
All American.
yeah, in
Gotcha.
North Carolina. Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Gotcha.
yeah. I forgot to also mention that for the recap last year. We've ended Daytona this year for the first years too. So that was,
Yeah.
one for the books. Being able to vend that show was a great experience.
Yeah, definitely. What was your thought? I was looking for that. You posted
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
How did you like this one in North Carolina? All American.
Yeah, and being honest, man, the show production, the organization was top tier.
Okay.
Now, the what's it called? The sales were a little low, a lot low, I would
Okay.
say. Where like I know they're having one here in the next couple months, and I didn't sign up for that
Okay.
just because to me to redo it in the summer again was a little not worth it. And that was the first time, so sometimes the first times are hit or miss.
Yeah, definitely.
So what I did hear from a lot of the patrons and stuff like that coming in was that this was the best show they've ever seen in this era. They've never seen anything like it. So
Okay.
maybe building that anticipation that really showing people what a good reptile show should look like, because the vendors were
Yeah.
also really good top tier vendors. 99% of them were vendors. If I had a show, I would want them to come to my show.
Right.
So
yeah. And I honestly I thought the same about Scales, although Scales had a lot of people through the door, and I know a lot of people did well there, but like I couldn't stop talking about it. And I don't think I sold a single animal at Scales, but like I just thought it was a very well put together show. There were a ton of people through the door. I know other people did quite well, so yeah. I mean, I think these newer shows are kind of raising the bar for good reptile shows,
Yeah, man. Like I did Scales 2023. And it was okay. It was the first show. I sold maybe 2 or 3 animals. This year I did a lot better. I did very well this show, so I was happy.
Yep.
Where I'm definitely gonna do this year again. Do the show. West Palm, it's a good area because it's not too far south, it's not too far north, so you get people from
it's a good middle point too.
And the venues, it's a good venue. There's really good parking, easy to get to, so that's a big plus there.
Now on the topic
I
of
think
shows,
2020 was that.
No, go ahead, finish what you're gonna say.
After seeing the Instagram, 2024 was definitely a big push for shows. For me,
Yeah. No, I know you were grinding. I know you were busy. You were
Yeah.
traveling a lot. So I'm glad that paid off for you because I know you
Mm-hmm.
you did well at a good portion of them. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Yeah. And that being said, we talk about the successes, right? But there was 2 shows. Let me see. 2 shows last year that didn't sell a single animal out.
okay.
Um, you know, but out of, let's say, 15 shows last year, we'll round up, or we'll average it out about 15 shows, 2 shows not selling a single animal. It's part of it. You take the hit, you keep on
Yeah.
going. Um, so if anybody's gonna go vend for their first time, don't you don't sell a single animal. Don't let it discourage you. It happens. It's just it wasn't your day. The right customer didn't walk through the door that day. You know.
Yeah. Awesome. What I was gonna ask is, are you gonna come to Colubrid Fest this year?
So here's the big problem with Colubrid Fest. It
Oh yeah,
falls
you told me why
on
you couldn't this past year, right? It's your whose is it? It's your
my
daughter or
oldest
your wife's
daughter's
birthday?
my
Okay.
daughter's birthday. Um, I tried to see, hey, do you want to go to a reptile show for your birthday? That was not happening. um, you know, so we'll see. We'll see the dates. I think
Okay.
if I'm not wrong, they fall around the same dates again. Um,
They haven't officially announced the date, so I'm not sure.
okay,
So we're gonna
okay.
see.
Okay. So
But
yeah, I made a point to say,
yeah.
hey, I can't go, guys. Just do it the next year. Just don't do it around the 27th of September.
Okay.
So yeah, that's rough. Unless I get a pass, from my wife and her, I would love to go to Colubrid Fest. I heard it
Yeah.
was great time. I watched the what's it called, the replays of the presentations on
Okay.
the on the Patreon and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that was really cool to be able to see, because that's what I really want to see. That stuff there, and then also there's a good amount of people there, to be able to just sit there and talk about reptiles
Oh
and
yeah.
colubrids. You know,
You would have enjoyed it, like genuinely. I
yeah.
remember we talked about it afterwards. I think I was texting you. I think I was voice texting you on the way home,
Oh
but like
yeah,
no,
yeah,
I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I
yeah,
think you will too. So yeah.
yeah. So hopefully, guys, if you guys are listening, um, September 27th is a no go. Yeah,
We'll hope Clint listens to that exact soundbite.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah.
yeah,
All
man.
right.
What you got? What you got?
No, so I wanted to talk about, so you added some new species this year. I wanted
Yes,
to talk about
yeah,
those, and I know you're very, very excited about them.
yeah, man, yeah.
Um,
To set the record straight, hog nose are still going to be the bread and butter of
oh
what
yeah.
we have. Um, but I think adding new species, it's good. And I talk about the business because I'm running a business with my reptiles and stuff like that. But it's good, first of all, for the person to have a new species, and it's good for the business to grow. So I added a Baron's Racer. So I have a pair of those right now. Definitely those gonna be top of the list to add more this year, even before Hognose, because I doubled down a lot on last year on Hognose.
Yeah.
So this year, the big investments are gonna be into Baron's Racer. So I got a yearling already. Um, Actually, she's almost gonna be a 2-year-old female, a green from a green and blue pairing.
Okay.
So got that, and then after getting her, I searched and searched the internet for the right blue male. I know that there was other blue males and stuff like that, so the right price, the right coloration of blue and stuff like that. And I finally got a blue male. It's about, I think in March it'll be a year old male. And I recently
Nice.
got it not long ago, and that thing, man, I've seen the blues in person at Kevin Barron's place. And when I saw that, that's you know my decision was almost split between the rhinos and the barons.
Don't do
And
this
when
to
I
me, Alvaro.
yeah, man. And when I saw the blue, it it was an easy decision at that point.
Yeah,
So it was really cool, finally getting my hands on the blue. So big shout out to Brittany Gobbles Reptiles. Um, you know, she, you know, she posted it. I messaged her, and I put a deposit on it.
nice.
Right price, right color and stuff like that. So that male is, gonna be is a prized possession right now in the collection, and hopefully, in the future, once the female's ready and he's ready, be able to produce greens and blues. Um, because if I'm not wrong, he came from a blue and green parent as well.
Nice.
Um, one of the parents, I forgot exactly what, but one of the parents one of those parents was a green that came from a blue and green. So it had blue lineage and then a
Okay.
visual blue. So, and he's a, I haven't posted on like social media, but I sent, the group chat,
Yeah.
what's it called?
No, I
The
saw it.
Colubrid Corruption podcast. And that thing is really cool to have in my collection. So we got those. Gonna be adding more. Probably gonna add some browns as well, and then more greens
Okay.
and blues this year. And then we added also Madagascar giant hognose. And those things, man, the barons are just visually they're stunning.
Yep.
The behavior, they're more of a flighty, more very like jolly animal that I'm not too used to. Um, but the Madagascar giant hognose, they don't have morphs or different colorations. There is variance in like the standard coloring of like their yellows and their blacks and stuff like that.
Right.
Um, but their behavior, it's so cool to have. They're very confident animals. They come up. The male that I have, he's a little more reserved than the female, and he loves to hood up all the time. Um, and I've posted that on my stories on Instagram, and he's about a year old now. He's a year old, I think, and he's probably close to 3 feet long. Not really wide, but once he gets his good size this year, one thing I thought about is like I could just imagine him coming out his enclosure like hooding up really big. So that's one really cool behavior that they have, just like the westerns. But those get really big too. They up to 6 feet long. So it's gonna
Nice.
be cool to have a nice big colubrid in the collection. The female is really nice. She has some really unique coloring, and whoever's watching and that has Madagascar giant hognoses has been looking to get them. Um, Usually they have like this pink reddish coloration and they're from like their neck all the way to like maybe midway down their upper body. And as they age and shed, it starts almost yellowing out like a pastel yellow color. But the female, a year and a half, still has kept really bright reds. So that's really cool to see that she's keeping her color, and hopefully maybe working that in the future, trying to produce line bred stuff that keeps more of the red belly than the yellow belly.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I gotta ask you, man, because like you have this whole collection of hognose, like
yeah.
the westerns, and then you add 2 new species this year. Like, how fun is it to learn and see a whole different range of behaviors from like 2 new species? And I'm sure they're totally different. And the barons are like, I'd say, completely opposite of
Oh
hogs.
yeah, because they're semi arboreal, so you gotta have to have that behavior addition.
Yeah.
Man, just like with the hognose, um, the barons and the Madagascar giant hognose, I deep dive trying to find as much information, talking to people that have them, and trying to just get more information as I can. But having them in your hand, it definitely, there's been learning curves on how to feed, how to handle them, um, you know, and but just the excitement of having the new species and something different to break up the everyday routine. is very important.
Yeah.
And um, I've thought to myself, I don't have an answer for myself, but is there going to be a cap of how many species I end up having? Um, you know, because like just how I figured this out, like, okay, I really enjoy this species because it's something new and stuff like that. I got to keep realistic, and I can't just be adding different
Yeah,
species, a
of
handful of
course.
species every year. But um, you know, same thing I did with the hognose. The plan with that is grow that species. Have 2 to 3 years of successful keeping, breeding, and then adding something else. Because that was the same situation with the hognose. I wanted to really dial it down, figure it out, the breeding process, the keeping, all that stuff, and then add. Because I think if you jump into too many species at once, it's overwhelming, and that
Yeah.
could be the downfall, and like burning out real fast, trying to figure everything out.
Yeah. I do agree with that. Though I have to say, like, experience is the best teacher. And if you're
Yeah.
looking to get a new species and you've done your research, like, and you're just like, oh, I don't know if I should, it's like, dude, just pull the trigger and get it. Cause like
Yeah.
you're gonna get to learn, you're gonna get that hands-on, and you're probably gonna enjoy it more than you thought you would. So
Hmm.
that's what
Hmm.
I always, recommend.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And then those are other two species that batteries are becoming more popular now, but still very not. You're not going to most shows and seeing Barons races on people's
Oh
tables,
yeah.
right? Even like I think the only show that I saw Barons racers on maybe 2 or 3 tables was Daytona. Other than that, other all the shows that I did last year, not one, no other show had them. But
Yeah.
Daytona is the Colubrid, like Tinley, right?
You're
That's when
right.
all the Colubrid guys come out and show off what they have and sell their high end stuff and their most prized possessions. And then same thing, Madagascar giant hognose. Um, was it? I think somebody in Scales had one. One
Oh really?
A vendor had some Madagascar giant hognose, but then again, I don't see those many people on many people's tables. Um, One cool thing that I saw recently on a Madagascar giant hognose Facebook group, some guy, if I'm not wrong, in Belgium hatched out like an Exantic looking one.
Okay.
Um, so he called it Surfer. Um,
Okay.
and it looks really really unique, really cool. Like it has that Xantic characteristics to it. So let's see what happens and if he can reproduce that stuff. Because imagine having a giant hognose, giant colubrid with morphs, just similar to like the bull snakes and stuff like that, right?
Right.
um, where I think once more start popping up, they become more popular pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So those are two species that I added last year and gonna keep adding this year, and see where it takes me from there. You know, there is another species that I want to add. It's not a colubrid, that I want to add, and it's actually a lizard, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with those.
You want the monkey tail skinks,
The
right?
monkey tail skinks, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So that's another thing too. Like, here in Orlando, we have one of the bigger collections that that's privately held and stuff like that. And I'm still trying. I'm trying to talk myself into getting one this year. But same thing. They're not really from good
Yeah.
breeders and stuff like that. They're not easy to pick up. And they do better in like trios and communal setups. So I want to be able to provide them that as well. So like if I want to pick one up, I need to pick up at least three.
Right, right. No,
you
and I
know.
know you had that podcast episode with Matt
Hmm.
from
Hmm.
Sassabeck, and you were talking pretty exclusively about those guys.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
listened to a bit of that. That was good stuff.
yeah,
Matt's a good dude.
yeah, man.
Um,
Yeah, he's really good, and those are another. I think that's going to be another like you know whirlwind of behavior, learning behaviors, care and stuff like that because they are communal animals. So
Yeah.
we'll see where the year ends and what else I have. But one interesting fact, we're talking about colubrid corruption, and all my species are colubrids. Actually, I'm gonna lie, but they're not mine. They're my daughters, my youngest daughters. We had to have a few Kenyan samboas.
Okay.
But they're hers. And that's her little thing that she likes. But stuff that we're gonna be definitely adding to the Clover's reptile umbrella, and eventually want to breed and stuff like that. It's majorly colubrids. It's it is that's what just catches my eye, and it's pretty cool to think about that.
Nice. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you. Everything I've got are colubrids minus the ball pythons. That's my one exception to like the rule, I guess. But yeah. And I kind of just mentioned it, but you also do a podcast. I know we've talked about it before. It's called the Scaled Success Reptile Podcast. It's on your regular YouTube channel, right?
Yes, yeah, it's on my regular YouTube channel, so the Clover's Reptiles channel.
Yeah, and I have that linked in the YouTube description here. So, Alvaro, what I like about your show is that you don't necessarily have a topic, and you kind of do shows. It's like for you. It's like you have the shows that you want to have with the people you want to have, and I totally respect that. You're not really like, of course, you're catering to your audience, but like you're doing the shows that you want to do, and I think that's great. And you're having on a lot of good guests, talking about a lot of good stuff. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, man. And not I'm not trying to be like snobby or elitist or that, but I've been very particular on the people I bring on, especially after like the first like 5 that I ever did. And that's another reason, like you said, like I only do it twice a month. And then I bring on, people that I wanted to like Matt Sasselbag. I brought him on because I want to talk about monkey tail skinks, and he was a guy that, would I be able to, put out the information out there. And it's great because whenever I want to learn about monkey tail skinks, I go back to that and I rewatch it, so like anything that I wanted to know, I asked. So that's very interesting, very cool thing to be able to do these podcasts, is bringing on people and people that have species. And I didn't close it off to a specific species because I wanted to learn more about different species as well. And I think it's good to and I do try to bring on like some obscure stuff that I have on. I think I've only brought maybe like 2 or 3 ball python breeders on. And Melio has been the only single ball python breeder that I've brought on that only does ball pythons.
Gotcha.
Everybody else has this and ball pythons, some other species and stuff like that. So it's been interesting. This year we're gonna maybe mix it up a little bit, bring on a little bit more ball python stuff, because I think I need to bring on more. I need to learn more about ball pythons, just because it's such a large part of our hobby, where to me, the more the better you're off. So bring on that. And then
I totally agree. I think there's like people who are in other sectors of the hobby, like even colubrid people. It's like, guys, there's so much, because, and granted, there's a lot of egos, there's a lot of BS in the ball python side of things, but there's also a lot of knowledge and a lot of things to learn from what goes on with the genetics and things like that, and just understanding the animals that are being made and stuff like that. So there's a lot of like really cool stuff behind the stuff you hate to see. So yeah, it's fun to learn about. I feel like people should be more open, and this has never been a shit on ball pythons podcast, because I have the ball pythons right here, but like there's a lot of cool things in ball pythons that we just don't get in other species. So I think you should appreciate what comes out of them, because it is very cool.
Yeah,
and there's no easier way to say that. You can't deny it. It's just cool.
Yep. Yeah. And it leads the industry year over year. So you can't ignore it. But yeah, and then I have the topics like the more boring topics of like, sometimes just talking about like the RGI thing. It was exciting to hear like, oh, they're gonna
Yeah.
have genetic testing, but sometimes just to hear 2 hours or hour and a half of just genetic talk for some people can be a little boring if you're not into
Yeah.
that. And feeder people and stuff like that. But it's all part of our world, right? Like if we didn't have feeders, we wouldn't be able to have these animals. So it's another thing I'm gonna bring on is I'm probably gonna bring on more newer keepers as well this year and mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Some people that especially specifically hognose
Yeah.
breeders that have been that I've been noticing as well. Which is I'm not saying that I'm a older breeder or OG or stuff like that, but like people that maybe have popped up within the last year, like popped up in
Yeah.
2024 that I've started following and seeing. I'm probably gonna bring on add sprinkle some in through the year and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
that's a little something of what I wanted to do, and it's obviously not something new. I'm taking the ideas of a few different other podcasters, but I think
mhm,
it's a great idea of having newer people on. I did one once before the end of
yeah,
last year, and I'd like to do a few more of them this year for sure.
yeah, man. I looking at things from a different lens is always a good, good can be good. I'm not gonna say always, but it can be good. It can help us, see different points of views of how to do certain things with our animals. So I think that's a big plus. And if I can help somebody, push their love for animals, why not? You
Yeah.
know, so because I really appreciate all the help all the support that I've gotten through the podcast and our YouTube channel and
Oh
stuff like
yeah.
that. So you know, give it back now. Be able to support other people that are just starting off.
Yeah. And dude, your regular YouTube stuff, like you made a big splash in the Hognose community from what you're doing on YouTube.
Yeah.
Um, what's that been like? Because it's something that doing YouTube stuff is stuff I've struggled with. I have a hard time putting out videos, and I have some reasons for it. And I want to get back on the horse this year for sure and put out more regular videos for people.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my 2025 goals, is put out more YouTube videos for people to enjoy and build a subscriber base that way in addition to the podcast. But yeah,
Yeah.
what has that done for you? Because I know you've had people literally come up to you and say, "Oh, I've seen you on YouTube before," and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
man.
So
Man, that brings a good topic. And um, I had this happen to me the last show of the year, Orlando last year. I mean, in December in Repticon. You know, and the YouTube thing is another thing that I was like, I'm not gonna put a how-to videos out there because I'm new
yeah,
and I'm still learning myself. It was just this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm doing it. Follow the journey thing, right?
yeah,
So I think that was one big thing where like once I started breeding and started figuring things out, it was easier to put out. Not easy, but easier to put out videos. There is weeks that I might slack and there's probably no video up, some new video. Like for the holidays, I shut down not shut down, but like
yeah.
I put everything to the side, took the
No, and a lot
breeder,
of people did. So yeah,
and 2023 hitting back, having new ideas. Now that I have, you know, decent, some experience with the hog nose, going to my third year of breeding. Now this year, for people that are interested, keep a lookout because this year I am going to do the how-to videos, and all that stuff. So I think that's going to be a big help because I do get the messages on social media, on Instagram. Hey man, I saw you this on the video. How do you do it? Um, you know,
right.
and another big thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be launching a Patreon as well.
Nice. There
To
you go.
try to help as well those how to stuff that maybe somebody wants to sit back and do a one-to-one. And I reached out to a good amount of my like OG buddies that have been doing hognose, and they're on board too. So I'm gonna have some like special guest on the Patreon from like the OG guys if people want to really nitpick
Very
their
cool.
brains and stuff like that. So there's new stuff 2025. Definitely gonna be putting stuff out there and growing it. And like the YouTube thing, hopefully, there's moments, man, like, man, do I give up on it? Because the grind, man, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't want to give up on it. Even if I just maybe cut down to twice a month also on videos, I just don't want to fully give up on it.
Were you doing consistent like once a week?
I was
Okay. Yeah. See, I think that
2024.
I
Yeah.
think depending on the person, I think that could be hard to commit to. I think for me, it's hard to commit to just because my collection's a little bit smaller. I'm not having as many clutches or babies as
Mhm.
you. So like there are things where I'm just like, oh, I can't do that. That's not for
Yeah.
me. But there are things that I can make videos on, and I could film, going through my collection and a day in the life of being a snake
Yeah.
keeper and things like that. So, there's stuff out there to work on.
There is, man. And I think the journey part is so cool because I go and see the first video I did.
Oh yeah.
And then now, and like just seeing the difference in when I think the first video I did, I had I think half of this rack right here. These are two racks stacked on top of each
Yep.
other. So I only had one. And now seeing this wall now and seeing what's next to me and how it's growing, it's pretty cool to see. So
Yeah.
seeing the records of that, and then for people to be able to follow that as well is pretty cool as well, you know. And then a lot of times I'll get the questions, especially about brumation. Um, Sometimes there's a lot to explain every single step what I do, so I'll just refer somebody. Just go take a look at my YouTube video. I have a playlist,
Yeah.
just information, and you can skip through and see what I'm doing and how I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
No, and I'm sure that makes it way easier just sending a little YouTube link because you already
it does, man.
explained it.
It
Yeah.
does, yeah. You know, and we're in that era of free information, so why not put it out there? If I don't, I'm one thing was if I don't put it out there, somebody else will. Um, and what I always tell people is also do your own research, because there's multiple ways of doing the same thing and having the same success with it.
Definitely. Definitely. All right. Um, is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we get into some of my wrap-up questions here? Anything else that I
No,
may
man.
have forgotten about?
No, I pretty much covered it. The newer stuff that's gonna come out down the YouTube on social media, the
Yeah.
Patreon, newer breedings this year. It's like the most exciting I'm doing. I'm excited for this. Just putting the Swiss chocolate stuff into my
Oh yeah.
collection and breeding that. Because that's high top tier, high end stuff there, and being able to grow that. So that's going to be really interesting. And then if you guys are at a show locally and stop by, say hi and talk. And if I'm always open book. If you guys have any questions about Hognose, hit me up. And I'm willing to help. And if I don't know the particular answer, if I'm iffy about it, I can get you somebody that has a lot more experience than I do.
Yeah. And we're not quite done yet, but I have Alvaro's like social media links in the description. His Instagram, on YouTube, it's Clover's Reptiles. So go give him a subscribe, a follow, and all that good stuff. But I have my last three wrap up questions. I don't remember if I had these when I first had you
I
on.
don't
I
think
don't
we
think I
did.
did. I don't
No.
think I did because these like evolved, and now I've kind of just kept these three last ones kind of consistent. So we're gonna roll with it.
Let's hear it.
On Alvaro's second episode. So, what is a big motivator for what keeps you going with reptiles? You've done a lot over the last 3 years now and built this collection, but what is it that keeps you like going and keeps that fire burning?
Happiness, man. This has definitely been an eye opener of maybe what I should have been doing a long time ago. Just no, not the right moment, right place. But doing this has definitely brought a lot of happiness, a lot of just happiness to what I do, my day-to-day life, and to my family's life. So it's opened up different point of view and different world to me.
Yeah, that's
You know,
awesome.
yeah,
All
and
right.
I'm gonna touch up. So I'm gonna do, how you did a. Sorry to interrupt
No,
your
no,
last
you're
questions,
good.
but
You're good.
how you did your end of the year wrap up. I'm gonna do one. My was it the second week of January? So I'm gonna
Okay.
do a wrap up of so the 14th of January. I'm gonna do a wrap up. And I'm gonna bring up talk about a topic on happiness and something that definitely happened in the Orlando Repticon, talking about people that coming up and talking about,
Yeah.
hey, I saw you on YouTube and what you're seeing. So if you guys are interested in really going in deep into that, check it out.
Nice. There we go. So we talked a lot about the future, so I'm not going to say like what does it necessarily hold for you. We talked plenty about that.
Mhm.
But besides the monkey tail skinks, I need to know what the next colubrid on your want list is. So like if you had a ranking order, you got your barons, you got your Madagascar giant hogs.
Yeah.
So what's the next one?
Um,
I
Man, the
know it. You
next
said
one.
it's not going to be for some time,
Yeah.
but I want to know what
Yeah.
it is at this current point.
Um, and this is, I'm just gonna go off with something that just off looks and stuff like that really has caught my eyes, and is that bamboo rat snakes.
Okay.
So those are really cool to keep, just uh, visually. So
Yeah.
those will probably be in the collection one day. Um,
Nice.
you know, Anything that I really want to breed or that I really want to go hard onto. Um, I couldn't give you the answer right now, man. I would
Yeah.
definitely have to sit down and look. But it's definitely going to be a colubrid for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And now this one I think I had since like the OG of the podcast, but we'll up maybe it's an update to the answer. But what's your elevator pitch for someone who is getting a colubrid for the first getting a snake for the first time, or they're coming from another sector in the hobby and they're looking for a colubrid species? What's your elevator pitch for hognose? Why hognose?
Yeah. Why hognose? First, and I don't care, I'm a grown ass man, I'll tell you, they are the cutest snakes you'll have. You know? Um, but I think the hognose was it presence and the way they look, it's a good icebreaker for people that are teetering about getting a snake, or that might be a little bit like, oh, I'm a little afraid of snakes, but hognose I can deal with. So that it's a big plus. And I do get a lot of customers because of that, just
Yeah.
the plain cuteness of hognose. But they are smaller colubrid and a smaller species of snakes. So I think that's another big plus. You don't have to have such a large enclosure. You don't have to feed large prey. That means less cleanup. And the morphs are very, very distinct between each other. The combos are really cool. So that's what I tell people is like, how many hot pink, or like lavender color species of snakes do you see at shows and stuff like that? Because, and I compare it to shows because that's where most people see them in person, right? Um,
Yeah.
that's my biggest elevator pitch. And to me, it is a good starter snake if you get it well established. And that's what I always tell people, to make sure it's well established. It has good feedings. The person
Yeah.
can tell you where it came from and what was the breeding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much again. It's been a great round. This was episode number 50. I always like the milestone with the tens.
Nice.
50. We're halfway to 100. So thank you so much for coming back on. I appreciate your time. What do you have to say to everyone who is watching the show now and anyone who's going to watch or listen later?
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching or listening on, thank you, Joe, for having me on again.
Of course.
Always good to have a good conversation with friends. And,
Yep.
make sure to follow us on all social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all that stuff. And then if you guys have any questions about hognose or looking for one, hit us up. We have a morph market as well. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Thanks again. I'm gonna run through the outro. If you want to hang out for a few minutes, feel free.
All right.
All right, guys. What another great episode of the Colubrid Corruption podcast. Really enjoyed that. Like I said at the beginning, Alvaro and I are good friends, so this is just us shooting the shit and hanging out, which we've done plenty of. So yeah, great episode. I really enjoy that. I like, even though I don't have Hognose, I really like hearing Alvaro talk about them because one, he's so passionate about them, and I like to learn. I like to learn about stuff that I don't necessarily know about. So it's fun to hear these things, even though the Hognose breeders have a combo name for every snake, and I'm never going to learn those. It's never going to happen. But yeah, great episode. Guys, as usual, make sure you hit that like and subscribe on today's podcast. We're getting those subscribers up. I really appreciate you guys. Like consistent few subscribers a week. Let's get those numbers up. Keep it going. Make sure to listen to this on all the major audio platforms. Leave a 5-star review if you can. Apple Music, Spotify, or Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that good stuff. First link in the description goes to the Meteoric Serpents Patreon. Come hang out if you want to support me. It's an extra way to say thank you for the show. I just want to make the show bigger and better for you guys, so that helps me to do that. And come hang out. And and thank you again to Show Me Reptiles for sponsoring the show. But yeah, guys, this has been episode number 50 of the Colubrid Corruption podcast with Alvaro of Clover's Reptiles. Thank you so much again, everyone, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.